Thomas's snowsuit. One day, Thomas's mother bought him a nice new brown snowsuit. When Thomas saw that snowsuit, he said, "That is the ugliest thing I have ever seen in my life. If you think that I'm going to wear that ugly snowsuit, you are crazy." Thomas's mother said, "We'll see about that." The next day, when it was time to go to school, the mother said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." His mother jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So Thomas's mother picked up Thomas in one hand, picked up the snowsuit in the other hand, and she tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight, and when it was done, Thomas was in his snowsuit. Thomas went off to school and hung up his snowsuit. When it was time to go outside, all the other kids jumped into their snowsuits and ran out the door, but not Thomas. The teacher looked at Thomas and said, "Thomas, please put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." The teacher jumped up and down and said, "Thomas, put on that snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So the teacher picked up Thomas in one hand, picked up the snowsuit in the other hand. She tried to stick them together. They had an enormous fight, and when they were done, the teacher was wearing Thomas's snowsuit. Thomas was wearing the teacher's dress. Uh-oh. When the teacher saw what she was wearing, she picked up Thomas in one hand and tried to get him back into his snowsuit. They had an enormous fight. When they were done, the snowsuit and the dress were tied into a great big knot on the floor, and Thomas and the teacher were just in their underclothes. Uh-oh. Just then, the door opened and in walked the principal. The teacher said, "It's Thomas. He won't put on his snowsuit." The principal gave his very best principal look and said, "Thomas, put on your snowsuit." And Thomas said, "No." So the principal picked up Thomas in one hand, he picked up the teacher in the other hand, and he tried to get them back into their clothes. When he was done, the principal was wearing the teacher's dress, and the teacher was wearing the principal's suit, and Thomas was still in his underwear. Then, from far out in the playground, someone yelled, "Thomas, come and play!" Thomas ran across the room, jumped into his snowsuit, got his boots on in 2 seconds, and ran out the door. The principal looked at the teacher and said, "Hey, you have my suit. Take it off right now." The teacher said, "Oh no, you have my dress. Take off my dress first." Well, they argued and argued and argued, but neither one wanted to change first. Finally, Thomas came in from recess. He looked at the principal and he looked at the teacher. Thomas picked up the principal in one hand and he picked up the teacher in the other hand. They had an enormous fight, and Thomas got everyone back into their clothes. The next day, the principal quit his job and moved to Arizona, where nobody ever wears a snowsuit. The end. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flippin'. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge, bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people. That's a pretty big tiny town. And some assorted cats and dogs. But there was no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people would watch the weather report on the television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry in between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast. Most of the time, it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. That sounds very sticky. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times, with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potato were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and the lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. One day, there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. Oof. The next day, there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day, there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. Oh no, climate change. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds, some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating loaves. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. The children were devastated. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess, and there were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So, a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land. Do you have a secret? Nope. Duck did not have a secret to tell me. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I even remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran down for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top. We could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. Jamberry. 1 berry, 2 berry, pick me a blueberry. Hatberry, shoeberry, in my canoe berry. Under the bridge and over the dam, looking for berries, berries for jam. Oh no! 3 berry, 4 berry, hay berry, strawberry. Finger and paw berry, my berry, your berry. Strawberry ponies, strawberry lambs, dancing in meadows of strawberry jam. Quickberry, quackberry, pick me a blackberry. Trainberry, trackberry, clickety-clackberry. Rumble and ramble in blackberry bramble, billions of berries for blackberry jamble. Raspberry, jazzberry, razzmatazberry, berry band, merry band, jamming in berryland. Raspberry rabbits, raspberry band, elephants skating on raspberry jam. Moonberry, starberry, cloudberry sky, boomberry, zoomberry, rockets shoot by. Mountains and fountains rain down on me, buried in berries. What a jamboree. The end. The Great Puppy Invasion. Strictville. All work and no play makes for a great day. One day, a puppy showed up in little Teddy's town. Then 2, then hundreds. The locals panicked. They had never seen puppies before. Little Teddy's town had a long history of ridiculous rules. Fun was forbidden. Play was prohibited. Cuteness was downright criminal. And today was quickly becoming a colossal, cute catastrophe. What are these adorable things? Those eyes, I can't look away. Don't touch them, Teddy. The mayor held an emergency meeting in the town hall. We must get rid of these adorable creatures, she declared. This cuteness is too much for just one town. With all this cuteness, we will get nothing done. Don't wave at them, Teddy. The townspeople tried everything they could think of to get rid of the puppies, to rid themselves of the puppies. They threw sticks at them, but the puppies brought the sticks right back. They tried chasing the puppies away, but the puppies grew even more delightful. Let's try feeding them, someone suggested. Then maybe they'll leave. And that's when their tails started wagging. What are they doing? Are they waving at us? No, they're trying to hypnotize us. Look away, Teddy, look away. Run, the mayor shouted. People ran for their lives. The puppies trotted along after them. They barked, they yip-yipped, they roughed. Oh, they sound lovable. That's just what they want you to think. Cover your ears, Teddy. One by one, doors began to slam, 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 until everyone was safely inside. But as little Teddy reached his front porch, he heard a teeny whimper coming from the tiniest of all puppies. And he wondered how something so sweet and so playful and so adorably sad could possibly be scary. Just then, the puppy stepped forward and sat down on little Teddy's lawn and lifted its fuzzy front paw. Little Teddy approached. The puppy's enormous eyes grew even larger. Excuse me. He crept closer and closer as the townspeople looked on in horror. One by one, the townspeople emerged from their homes, and the rest of the puppies sat down and lifted their paws too. The townspeople cautiously stepped forward, then carefully crouched down to kindly shake paws with the cute, countless canines. What are you doing? And that's when the puppies pounced. And the townspeople discovered they liked puppies after all. This one is soft. This one is cuddly. This one looks just like me. They gave them names. They taught them tricks. And some even dressed the puppies in silly outfits. Yeah, like you. But most important that day, the people in little Teddy's town decided once and for all that they would never be afraid of cuteness again. The end. Jamberry. One berry, two berry, pick me a blueberry. Hatberry, shoeberry, in my canoe berry. Under the bridge and over the dam, looking for berries, berries for jam. Oh. Three berry, four berry, hay berry, strawberry. Finger and paw berry, my berry, your berry. Strawberry ponies, strawberry lambs, dancing in meadows of strawberry jam. Quickberry, quackberry, pick me a blackberry. Trainberry, trackberry, clickety-clackberry. Rumble and ramble in blackberry bramble, billions of berries for blackberry jamble. Raspberry, jazzberry, razzmatazberry, berry band, merry band, jamming in berryland. Raspberry rabbits, brassberry band, elephant skating on raspberry jam. Moonberry, starberry, cloudberry sky. Boomberry, zoomberry, rockets shoot by. Mountains and fountains rain down on me, buried in berries, what a jamboree. The end. Be a good dragon. When cinders come showering down from the skies, and thunder is rumbling and smoke burns your eyes, then run like a rabbit, fly like the breeze. Enzo the Dragon is starting to sneeze. Ka-chee! Ka-choo! Curse blabble disploo! The mountain is splattered with crackling goo. I'm sick, oh Baba be quick. He sprays an explosion of sparkling ick. His mother says, please, cover your sneeze. No one is eager to catch your disease. But Enzo explodes in a terrible roar. It's dragging me nuts. I can't dig any door. Warn all the people, sound the alarm. Pack up your piggies and flee from your farm. Enzo is coming, he's headed this way, fouling the air with his sulfurous spray. Creating a storm with his sneezes and sniffs, Enzo comes hurtling over the cliffs, over the boulders, over the snow, straight for the fields and the pastures below. The farmers are running, they're fleeing their shacks, with cows in their carts and kids on their backs. Their crops are all wilting, their corn is all popping. Curse bliff, says Enzo. And he still isn't stopping. Enzo is coming, the villagers shriek. Run for the river, jump in the creek. Eek! The royal magician appears on the scene. I come in the name of the king and the queen. He's barely awake as he stumbles outside. His robe is on backwards, and his shoes are untied. Beg me albedo, the dragon demands. The wizard starts chanting and waving his hands. Abracadabra, the thing I suggest is plenty of fluids and plenty of rest. Enzo goes, brat, and scorches his hat. Sorry, says Enzo. Excuse me for that. Jesters and jokers arrive in a wagon with buckets of water to throw at the dragon. The water midstream is turned into steam. Our weapons are useless, the jokers all scream. Here, says the wizard, I brought you a drink. It's just about time for your nap, I should think. I don't need a nap, the dragon complains, lighting up avenues, alleys, and lanes. The knights on the street refuse to retreat. They gallop ahead without missing a beat. Ka-choo! Ka-choo! There's no getting through. They cover their faces What else can they do? Wait, says the wizard. Alrighty, you win. Kalamazoo! Let the magic begin. He whips up a tub full of abracabrew and conjures a magical pillow or two. Dangu, says Enzo. He drains the whole batch, 200 gallons, right down the hatch. Plenty of fluids. That's a good start. Plenty of rest is the second part. Sleep, says the wizard, when I count to 4. Enzo. Enzo replies with a rumbling snore. When he awakens, the sneezes are beat. He lets out a burp as he gets to his feet, then slishes and sloshes away to the hills, foggy and groggy, and full to the gills. If you catch a sniffle, then here's what to do. Drink a few gallons of abracabrew and lie on a magical bed for a spell. Abracadabra. It works pretty well. And if you should feel that you're starting to sneeze, be a good dragon. Cover it, please. The end. Not quite narwhal. Kelp was born deep in the ocean. He knew early on that he was different from the other narwhals. His tusk wasn't as long as everyone else's, and he had a different taste in food. And he wasn't a very good swimmer. But his friends didn't seem to mind, so Kelp decided he wouldn't either. That is, until he was swept away by a strong current. Oh no, I wish I were a better swimmer. Kelp found himself at the surface, closer to land than he'd ever been before. High up on a cliff, he spotted a mysterious, sparkling creature. It looked so familiar. It looked like Kelp. Kelp swam toward land as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that he could catch up with the creature that looked just like him. When he finally reached the shore, Kelp felt a little bit anxious. He had never left the ocean. He was nervous about walking for the first time, but the land creatures made it look so easy. Oh dear. 1, 2, 3, oof. Hop, hop, ow. Eventually, he got the hang of it. Everything on land was strange and beautiful, but also kind of scary. Kelp began to think he might never find the creature that looked just like him. But as he stumbled out of the forest, land narwhals! Actually, we're unicorns. And, by the looks of it, so are you. Kelp had never heard of unicorns before. They taught him all sorts of new things about his tusk. We call them horns. Wow. They introduced him to unicorn delicacies, like the unicone. And they showed him how to gallop. And there was no doubt that Kelp was, in fact, a unicorn. He was having so much fun that he didn't want to leave. But then, he remembered all of his friends under the sea. Kelp missed them terribly, so he said goodbye to the unicorns and returned to the ocean. Come back soon! Kelp swam toward home as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that the narwhals would still like him now that he was a unicorn. When he finally arrived, Kelp had butterflies in his stomach. Welcome home! Yay, Kelp! Kelp took a deep breath and told his friends the news. It turns out, I'm not a narwhal. Of course you aren't. I'm a unicorn. We all knew that. They took it quite well. Kelp was happy to be home, but now that he'd experienced life on land with the unicorns, he couldn't seem to forget them. He did want to be a land narwhal with the unicorn, did he want to be a land narwhal with the unicorns, or a sea unicorn with the narwhals? Kelp couldn't decide. But then he realized that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to choose. He could be both. The end. Stregonona. In a town in Calabria, a long time ago, there lived an old lady everyone called Stregonona, which meant Grandma Witch. Although all the people in the town talked about her in whispers, they went to see her if they had troubles. Even the priest and the sisters of the convent went, because Stregonona did have a magic touch. She could cure a headache with oil and water and a hairpin. She made special potions for girls who wanted husbands. And she was very good at getting rid of warts. But Stregonona was getting old, and she needed someone to help her keep her little house and garden. So she put up a sign in the town square. And Big Anthony, who didn't pay attention, went to see her. "Anthony," said Stregonona, "you must sweep the house and wash the dishes. You must weed the garden and pick the vegetables. You must feed the goat and milk her. And you must fetch the water. For this, I will give you 3 coins and a place to sleep and food to eat." "Oh, grazie," said Big Anthony. "The one thing you must never do," said Stregonona, "is touch the pasta pot. It is very valuable, and I don't let anyone touch it." "Oh, si. Yes," said Big Anthony. So the days went by. Big Anthony did his work, and Stregonona met with the people who came to see her for headaches and husbands and warts. Big Anthony had a nice bed to sleep in next to the goat shed, and he had food to eat. One evening, when Big Anthony was milking the goat, he heard Stregonona singing. Peeking in the window, he saw Stregonona standing over the pasta pot. She sang, "Bubble, bubble, pasta pot, boil me some pasta, nice and hot. I'm hungry and it's time to sup. Boil enough pasta to fill me up." And the pasta pot bubbled and boiled and suddenly filled with steaming hot pasta. Then Stregonona sang, "Enough, enough, pasta pot. I have my pasta nice and hot. So simmer down, my pot of clay, until I'm hungry another day." "How wonderful," said Big Anthony. "It's a magic pot for sure." And Stregonona called Big Anthony in for supper. But too bad for Big Anthony, because he didn't get to see Stregonona blow 3 kisses to the magic pasta pot. And this is what happened. The next day, when Big Anthony went to the town square to fetch the water, he told everyone about the pasta pot. And naturally, everyone laughed at him, because it sounded too silly. A pot that cooked all by itself? "You'd better go and confess to the priest, Big Anthony," they said. Such a lie. And Big Anthony was angry, and that wasn't a very good thing to be. "I'll show them," he said to himself. "Someday I will get the pasta pot and make it cook, and then they'll be sorry." That day came sooner than even Big Anthony would have thought, because 2 days later, Stregonona said to Big Anthony, "Anthony, I must go over the mountain to the next town to see my friend Strega Amelia. Sweep the house and weed the garden, feed the goat and milk her, and for your lunch, there are some bread and cheese in the cupboard. And remember, don't touch the pasta pot." "Oh, yes, yes, Stregonona," said Big Anthony, but inside he was thinking, "Ah, my chance has come." As soon as Stregonona was out of sight, Big Anthony went inside, pulled the pasta pot off the shelf, and put it on the floor. "Now, let's see if I can remember the words," said Big Anthony. And Big Anthony sang, "Bubble, bubble, pasta pot, boil me some pasta, nice and hot. I'm hungry and it's time to sup. Boil enough to fill me up." And sure enough, the pot bubbled and boiled and began to fill with pasta. "Aha!" said Big Anthony, and he ran to the town square and jumped on the fountain and shouted, "Everyone get forks and plates and platters and bowls. Pasta for all at Stregonona's house. Big Anthony has made the magic pasta pot work." Of course, everyone laughed, but ran home to get forks and plates and platters and bowls, and sure enough, when they got to Stregonona's, the pasta pot was so full it began to overflow. Big Anthony was a hero. He scooped out pasta and filled the plates and the platters and the bowls. There was more than enough for all the townspeople, including the priest and the sisters from the convent. And some people came back for 2 and 3 helpings, but the pot was never empty. When all had their fill, Big Anthony sang, "Enough, enough, my pasta pot. I have my pasta nice and hot, so simmer down, my pot of clay, until I'm hungry another day." But alas, he did not blow the 3 kisses. He went outside, and to the applause of the crowd, Big Anthony took a bow. He was so busy listening to compliments from everyone that he didn't notice the pasta pot was still bubbling and boiling until a sister from the convent said, "Oh, Big Anthony, look!" And pasta was pouring out of the pot all over the floor of Stregonona's house and was coming out the door. Big Anthony rushed in and shouted the magic words again, but the pot kept bubbling. He took the pot off the floor, but pasta kept pouring from it. Big Anthony grabbed a cover and put it on the pot and sat on it. But the pasta raised the cover and Big Anthony as well, and spilled on the floor of Stregonona's house. "Stop!" yelled Big Anthony, but the pasta did not stop, and if someone hadn't grabbed poor Big Anthony, the pasta would have covered him up. The pasta had all but filled the little house. Out of the windows and through the doors came the pasta and the pot, and the pot kept right on bubbling. The townspeople began to worry. "Do something, Big Anthony," they shouted. Big Anthony sang the magic song again, but without the 3 kisses, it did no good. By this time, the pasta was on its way down the road, and all the people were running to keep ahead of it. "We must protect our town from the pasta," shouted the mayor. "Get mattresses, tables, doors, anything to make a barricade." But even that didn't work. The pot kept bubbling, and the pasta kept coming. "We are lost," said the people, and the priests and the sisters of the convent began to pray. "The pasta will cover our town," they cried. And certainly it would have, had Stregonona not come down the road, home from her visit. She didn't have to look twice to know what had happened. She sang the magic song and blew the 3 kisses, and with a sputter, the pot stopped boiling and the pasta came to a halt. "Oh, grazie, thank you, Stregonona," the people cried. But then they turned on poor Big Anthony. "String him up," the men of the town shouted. "Now wait," said Stregonona. "The punishment must fit the crime." And she took a fork from a lady standing nearby and held it out to Big Anthony. "All right, Anthony, you wanted pasta from my magic pasta pot," Stregonona said, "and I want to sleep in my little bed tonight, so start eating." And he did. Poor Big Anthony. The end. Catch my breath. I love to run as fast as I can. I'm very fast. Slow down, my mother said. Catch your breath. Catch my breath? Where would it go? Mom says Grandpa grumbles under his breath. Maybe my breath is there? My brother tells me I have dog breath. Maybe my breath is in T-Bone's mouth? There it is. I guess my breath does like to be stinky. Wait, stop. I need a breath of fresh air. My breath is swimming in the sea? It's waiting with bated breath, about to be nibbled. Splash! Gotcha. Oh no, I can't hold my breath underwater. This is an emergency. Excuse me, I've heard that I can buy baby's breath at a nursery? No. I'll never be able to catch my breath. Yay! I will never lose my breath again. Oh no! For the ones who take my breath away. The end. The napping house. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And in that house, there is a bed, a cozy bed, in the napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that bed, there is a granny, a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that granny, there is a child, a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that child, there is a dog, a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snorting granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that dog, there is a cat, a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that cat, there is a mouse, a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that mouse, there is a flea. Can it be? A wakeful flea, on a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. A wakeful flea, who bites the mouse, who scares the cat, who claws the dog, who thumps the child, who bumps the granny, who breaks the bed, in the napping house, where no one now is sleeping. The end. Thank you guys so much for coming to Bedtime Stories with Duck and Goose. We had a blast, and we're so glad you could make it. Oh, there he is. And we will see you. Bye. Good night. Sleep tight. See you later.